Chris, thanks for doing a Sunday edition of the Decoded podcast. I was actually surprised when I messaged you and said, "Hey, can would you do Sunday?" I thought for sure it wasn't going to happen, just because I know you're in motion, right? You're living your life. So this is good. I'm glad that we could make this happen because I was looking forward to this. Just wasn't able to make it happen yesterday.
Yeah, me too. So the fact that it can is because I spent time protecting the weekend. So
Ah,
just flat out. So part of it is I only have one as far as the stuff that distracts me from the stuff that I'd rather do. I only have one chore left to do. I got all of it done on Friday and Saturday. So kind of like that houseworky kind of stuff that tends to get uploaded to the weekend.
hmm
I got most of it done on Friday, and the remaining, and I have one thing to do today, which is kind of it's like vacuuming the hardwood like around the house, like kind of it's and that I, like that people can't be sort of walking through spaces, so even that can be tricky. Like even if I want to get it done, it's almost like because it's all through the main floor of our house,
hmm
and the house came with like central vac, this kind of old kind of like rickety central vac. So that's all I do. So I've got the cord and it's getting in people's ways, and I'll like just yank that cord and then I'll hear from around the corner, "Oh!" Because like the cord is like flipped up and hit someone. Um and of course I have my headphones on. I'm listening to a podcast as I do it. So I'm not my awareness, my spidey sense is not connected with the space. So suffice it to say, that is the only specific thing that I have to take care of today, just because.
hmm
And when I say I have to, subjective, I have to because I tell myself I have to. But it's
Right.
good to vacuum the house once a week, I think. So yeah, so that's how that happened. And groceries, the groceries I grab early on Sunday, so there was no interference there. So yeah, it's opportunity. I was able to cash in on opportunity because I did the work ahead of time to do it. Because you're right. The other thing too is that my rehearsal today is a night rehearsal, which is sort of
Oh,
out of the ordinary. Yeah. So it's a 7 to 10 tonight instead of normally it's like a 12 to 5 on Sundays.
how is rehearsal going?
Um,
How are you
it's good.
feeling?
I'm feeling like it's funny. That's a good way to actually put it. How am I feeling? I'm trying. I'm trying not to feel, only because I feel that feeling is not it's not helping me right now. What I need is concrete evidence that I can recite my monologues. I need concrete evidence that I can move through I guess I'm at the stage of an activity where I'm not I'm intolerant of my mistakes.
Mm,
And this is just a stage of everyone, whatever maker or creator you are, we all have mistakes, and we all um whether we see we're making mistakes or not, we all have mistakes. Try to learn from your mistakes, whatever kind of creative you are. And then you see if you got the skill. And then you try to draft, right? You try to fix it, and then you kind of hope that it fixed it in a way that makes you happy, and if you happen to be sharing that creativity with someone else, that it somebody else kind of recognizes that there's craft there. So I'm at that stage right now where I'm viewing my work from an audience perspective and saying to myself, the audience will not tolerate that. So I don't get to do how I feel. I have to do what would be acceptable from an audience member's perspective, and that changes the algorithm a little bit.
mm.
So that's where I'm at, and I'm hanging on to that, at least for my plan for the next week, because what that does is it puts a little bit of a coach's corner voice in my head that basically says, "Do it again, do it again, do it again, reread your thing, do it again." It's in that really frustrating stage of I'm officially in that frustrating stage, I think, of the creative process of practice. And not like the whole thing is practice, but this is practice in the because I think this is practice as a verb, not practice as a noun, right? We, you and I, this is a whole lot of practice as a noun, right? Right? Whether or not, like, I don't know if on the daily you and I are aware of what we're practicing towards, the nuances of what we do here, our weekly get togethers for reflective practice. We're not pushing each other to become better podcasters or better in this moment. So I would say what we do typically, I think our on ramp is practice as a verb, probably closer to practice as a verb. But I think our actual, when we hit live, we're probably closer to practice as a noun. And that's where I'm at right now in the process, is accepting that I have to lean harder. And so, so I have to lean harder on practice as a verb right now with my script, with my time on stage, with my getting feedback from the director, with my building relationship. I guess I'm very much I'm pressurized under being intentional, being active, intentional, and present. Wish I could make that into a cool acronym, but active, intentional, and present, and also have that voice in the back of my head, do it again, and not getting pissed off at it. And it's interesting because the director called this moment out last week at one of the rehearsals, because he had said, we're now in a space with the rehearsals that you can't move to the next stage. You will move to the next stage, but you can't move to the next stage until you risk putting down your script. Like that's the door to walk through. And all you're really doing is filling the room with more and more and more and more and more and more density. And what you actually need to do is to walk through that door and allow whatever it is skills you think you have to sort of exist in that larger space, that's unsafe space, because you have no structure or scaffolding there, right? It's like the promise of learning to write a paragraph in grade 9 and somehow knowing full well that you're going to be uncomfortable as you try to build those paragraphs into an essay or a multi-paragraph. And then the next layer of discomfort of like, now you need to write those paragraphs in an essay form, but persuasively, right? So we're into that space. Take that basic hamburger paragraph, and now what you need to do is you need to write a few of those and have it cohesive. So that's where I'm at in the process. I will say I'm frightened of moving into that. I do have fear of moving into that, and I've been questioning that, what I'm actually afraid of. I think that what I'm afraid of is more about finding out that the work that I've done hasn't been enough.
Mm.
And then I move into that large space, because that large space also chronologically has to occur at some point. And chronologically, I know how much time is left until the show must go up, right? May 5th. May 5th is opening night. I get it. Everything can be broken up to May 4th. Everything can be broken. May 5th, nothing can be broken. Right? So yeah, so that's where I'm at. Fear only because of that, not having the good stoic sense to say, be patient, you're doing the work, you're on the right track. But I don't have the perspective, that long game, to sort of take a 10,000 foot look at it and say, from up here, you're on track and you will be there. Just keep your practice as it is. So there's something kind of abstract about that.
Okay, so you have yet to put down your script.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're still walking,
Not complete. So not completely. Yeah, it's funny. It's
you're
a
still
snooze through.
holding on to it,
Yeah,
even though
it's
you
one
might
of
not
those.
be looking
Yeah,
at
there's times where I might start by looking at it and then I connect, right? But
it.
it's
Mm.
still in my goddamn hand. Like it's right. I'm still, and it's getting crushed and held, and then I lose a line and I'm like, kind of go back. I'm like, so yeah. There are elements of my character that have not been able to come alive because I'm anchored to the page.
Mm.
Because part of learning about the character has to happen once the page is no longer in your hand, right? Even now,
Right.
as we're talking, we would not be able to have this conversation entirely if every time I had to say to you, I had to read a script in order to know what to say to you. we're existing in this moment together without script, unscripted, right?
This is kind of cool. So, yeah, I wanted to hear your perspective on your preparation and how it's going, just because you spend a lot of time doing it. I mean, it's literally part of, when we talk on the side, it comes up
Hmm.
almost daily. You
Hmm.
and your, um, even in, this is kind of cool, even as time has gone on and you've had time with your family and stuff, the rehearsal has been a keystone in your life,
Hmm.
because it's like you got to prepare, and these are the dates and these are the times that you have to prepare with the director and the stage and your the actor you're working with. It was really cool. Yesterday on Instagram, I saw a picture that the Aurora Theater posted of you guys on the stage. Like, there was a shot of the stage with all the chairs and stuff. That was cool. And then I saw your buddy's headshot. And then I as soon as I saw that, I stopped. I'm like, I gotta see, did they put up Chris's headshot yet? Because I'm how did I miss it? I
I don't
didn't.
think they haven't
No,
yet.
they
I don't
haven't
think.
yet.
No.
They're saving the star of the show for
Oh, come on.
the last headshot.
No, 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 no. I did notice that too. It's funny. I did look. I'm like, oh, where's mine? But then I realized like savvy marketing means that you're slowly kind of just
That's right.
releasing
Slow
stuff,
release.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I will say, and I'll say this to. So it's Luke. Luke
Luke. Yeah.
is the guy's name. I have to. I will definitely compliment him. That's a solid looking headshot. Like it's like what? Okay, so here's the thing. So we're still rehearsing with masks,
Okay.
right? And I won't stop until the very last minute. Show night, I won't be wearing a mask. But it was interesting. It very much like I've spent a lot of time with this guy, rehearsing with this guy. We're building like this parallel relationship, like the two friends on stage. Um, we haven't shifted into friends in real life, but we're very friendly. It's like it's a good vibe. I could see sort of how I've gotten to know him. He could be a friend. Like he sort of is he's the type of person that I could be friends with just in away from the stage. So I feel some connection, some emotional connection, some friend connection there. So I see this picture and I'm like, damn, I actually wasn't, I didn't, I couldn't process that that was his face. It was like, I just don't have enough information from us being in the same space that meshed with how he looked in that photo. It was fascinating because we're just not around. It's the same thing. Many teachers right now like are looking at their students and they've been the fluency of getting to know people over the past 2 years and now schools not having the mandate, seeing students that you've known for people that you've known for 2 years and never actually seen 100% of their face. Some people, depending, if they wear a hat and they have glasses and they have the mask up, like you have very little your facial recognition software is messed. Like you have nothing to automatically notice. And that's a primal tool, right? Like, developmentally back in the day, besides smell and taste, how that face looks is a primal tool to sort of feel connection, right? Um, I am not fully grounded in baby development theory, but I've heard that's a thing, noticing and recognizing your mom's face or someone that's familiar to you. Um, so yeah, the seeing his full face on Insta, it's like, wow, nice photo. I'm like, sharp looking guy. That's nice looking face. So that was funny. And then of course I'm like, where's my photo? And I did. I'm like, I went over like, okay, it's not up yet. That's fine. That's fine. It's all good. Theater
Same
Aurora,
thing.
that's fine. If you're listening to this pod, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
It was the same thing. I was like, uh-oh, they posted up the other actor. When they post up Chris, and how did I miss it? Because I
Yeah.
remember, so in my mind, I had the stage with all the chairs, and then this guy. I'm like, oh, obviously I missed something in the middle, but I haven't. They're just say there's it's the slow release, which is fine,
Mhm.
makes sense.
Marketing, baby.
You gotta love it. You gotta
Yeah.
love the marketing. Well, I'm glad things are going well in that realm. That's good. Um, Dude, it's what, April the 10th, and I know you messaged me this morning. You said that there's snow out. There's snow out here too, little bits, and
Hmm.
it's like
Hmm.
it's that trickery, right? April comes and you get one warm day and people go nuts. They rip the snow tires off their cars. I saw a guy. I laughed. There's always a guy, and I'm not this guy. But the first nice day in April, and people are raking their lawns.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I
someone was doing that. Yeah,
yeah.
someone was doing that yesterday.
I'm like, I got yard work to do, trust me, but it's not time yet. It's not even. I'll consider it at the end of April in those nice days, but until then,
Hmm.
nah, I'm gonna stay in my house and keep doing the stuff that needs to happen in here. Um, you're not that
Yeah,
guy, are you?
dude, I'm not even a lawn guy. I'm
Okay,
not even.
okay.
Although, here's the thing I will say is that I have noticed like on the front boulevard. I'm a garden guy. I'll just say that I'm a garden guy. I'd rather have a garden. But I have noticed on the front boulevard now that all the melt off has happened, like a whole lot of dog crap. So
Mm,
I guess what I have to decide is am I the guy that I don't really care that much about the greenness of my lawn, but am I the guy that needs to go out and pick up all that dog crap?
mm.
So that's where I fall on that, my friend. But I did see there were several people up and down my street and up and down the street beside my street that they were doing that, dude. They were raking. They were raking. And I watch it and I think to myself, like, is that really a thing? Like, is it really a thing that has to be? Is that a thing that needs to be done right now? And I don't know. I didn't pursue it mentally, but I don't know. I don't know if that's actually a thing that needs to be done right now.
Well, I have a feeling that the people who do this are the ones that do it every year, the minute things look good at the end of March or early April. So
Mhm.
my issue, like I always think it's the same person. It's not like it's shifting every year and different people do this. I don't believe that. I believe it's the same person every year. Um, Jimmy down the street or Joni.
Hmm. Jimmy
And
moved into your neighborhood, eh?
well, there's lots of Jimmys,
Little
dude.
Jimmy.
Little Jimmy, Big Jimmy, Joni. They like to go out and do this. They feel accomplished, right? Like they feel like they've done something outside me. I don't feel any accomplishment with that right now, and I
Hmm.
am a lawn guy. In
I
fact,
was gonna say. I know that about you.
I'm a lawn guy. So I think this year I'm going to take on the front lawns of both of my neighbors. So um,
What does that mean?
I'm going to explain right now. I'm going to write it down. Roland's talking lawns. So uh, I'm very, I really like to have the front of my lawn looking good for the curb appeal and just for when I'm coming and going. I like to see a nice healthy lawn, and that's just me, right? I'm not judging others. That's what I want for my place. So the people, so if you're standing in my driveway looking at the street, the people on my
Mhm.
right, I only there's only a little bit of their my lawn on the right is where the most of my lawn is, and a little bit of theirs. So I take care of it. I fertilize it. I overseed, top dress it. I water it. I cut it. I take care of it. The people on my left, that's the side where there's only a little bit of my lawn and a lot of theirs, and I don't touch their side. I just do mine.
Mhm.
So you come over here, mid July, and you look at that side of my house, and you'll see this beautiful strip of dark green, lush, thick lawn standing at attention, groomed, taken care of, and then you see a meter of that. Then the next 3 or 4 meters is just death. Um, it looks like a desert. And so I'm fighting a battle, you know, if they get chinch bug or whatever, it's gonna eat my lawn. So anyway, last week I was looking outside the front of the house, and I'm like, you know what? I think this is the year that I take on their front lawn. And when it's time to get to work, I just incorporate their lawn into mine. Um, unless they tell me not to, I probably will and see what I can do. It's an interesting project actually. It's an interesting project. Do I need more work? No, but it would be epic if anybody pulled up to my house, and both sides, the lawn on both sides were just epic. So I'm that guy. Um, the neighbors across the street, they take care of their lawn. The three of us are all over it all the time. And the other neighbors chirp us and they razz us about it all the time. They're like, hey guys, we know what you do with your time, because you just look around, all you see is these three green lawns, and then everybody else is just desert. I call it desert and death. People don't water their lawn, and I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, I was once that person. I didn't know what to do, so I learned. Like, it's recommended you water your lawn for like 3 hours once a week, not 3 hours every day, because that doesn't help the lawn. And I've like learned the science about the different fertilizers and what they do, what you want them to do, and what you want your lawn to experience for it to be healthy. Um, it's taken years to figure that out. So when somebody, it's funny, I'll be out there working, somebody will walk by and say, "Hey, how did you get your lawn to look so good?" And I'm like, "You got 30 minutes?" Because it's not a one shot thing. It's a consistency thing, and it's slow release over time. Like right now, the backyard is a disaster. It's just a mud pit. And my son, my youngest, likes to go out there and hang out in the back. That's where he does his thinking. He kind of hangs out in the backyard and he's in the mud. And 3 years ago, I would have said, you can't go out there. It's all muddy. You're just going to wreck the lawn. Now it's like the lawn's wrecked. Go out and do what you're going to do. But when it's time to overseed and top dress and groom, you're going to be off of it for weeks until I can build the turf back up, and then you can go out and play some more. Because if I don't do that, then it's going to be desert death, and it'll be all weeds. And that's something I don't do well with weeds. So yeah, that's what's going on over here. I'm the lawn guy. Sarah has a picture. My wife has a picture. Before I had before I had um, a new trimmer, I would literally be outside trimming my lawn in the front around the rocks with scissors. And she came out one day and she took a picture of me crouched and using my scissors to trim it. And she loves to make fun of me about that. But I was like, it had to get done. I needed to cut those pieces of grass. How else do you do it with that when you don't have a trimmer? Anyway, I have a trimmer now. So oh, here's one more layer to add to that. I don't use a gas mower. I use a push mower, manual. People were making fun of me for that on the street. They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, my grass is going to be as nice as yours, and I'm not using a gas mower." And they just look at me funny or whatever. But after years of using it, they don't look at me funny anymore. That's it. That's all I wanted to say about that.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Good on you. Well, I got nothing because I'm not that guy. But I wouldn't walk past your place and I wouldn't ask you questions. I wouldn't bother. I don't even think that I would. I don't even think I would notice if you had a good lawn. You know what I mean? It wouldn't strike me as it wouldn't strike me as remarkable. Like that's how far away from it I am. Now, if you did something with flowers or plants or a rockery, well-placed fruit tree, um, maybe a bench in a covered area. Yeah, something in the design that I think to myself, wow, like that's intentional and something cool is going to grow out of that one spot. I can tell the way that they've kind of staged that one part.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's where. And what I would be doing as I'd be watching, like for what I watch in people's yards, is how they've um how they understand the cycles, like what you're addressing for the grass. You know, there's a time when different things have to be done.
Hmm.
Once you have your established garden, you, in theory, as I've come to understand it, is that you'll have different things growing at different rates and different things that would be perennially popping up well. Like, for example, right now, tulips popping up. You can have tulips and crocuses popping up. Like, if you have those just in the center, like how people position those in their garden so that their garden starts to look good at one point, and then
Mhm.
it's almost like what's that Olympic event? Relay race. And then as the tulips and crocuses are falling, you have another thing popping up, and you kind of end your season with your hostas and these other things that just like you can't burn them down. They last forever, right?
Mhm.
So I like seeing how people notice that, and I've gotten better at it, but I had no clue. I had no clue about these kind of like time and place and space kind of things. So I like that. I noticed that. I would definitely notice that in someone's garden. Well, and that's because that's where my interest lies too, right?
Right, right.
Again, I don't bother with trying to to grow grass. I have it, but I curse it every time I'm maintaining grass. I'm swearing to myself. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I putting this effort into grass? I guess I could find a way to love it like any plant, but for me, it's kind of like there's not enough novelty to it to keep my interest. Maybe that's it. Just not enough novelty. It's just a green carpet, right? Like, and I get it. Even as I say that, you're like, yeah. And the better, the lusher, the darker, the healthier green carpet. That's important. I'm like, yeah, not so much.
It's all good.
What I love is that I can have an amazing garden and have a crappy lawn. I can choose that. And I love that probably you could have a great lawn and not care about your garden.
I do
Do you
care a little bit about the garden, but I
what do
don't.
you what do you focus on? What do you track in your garden?
So I don't know the plants in the garden, but I do like to have nice, fresh looking new mulch with
Hmm?
the mulch line. And like I like to, so I do want it to be attractive to the eye. And it is when we're in full swing. The garden, the garden does what it needs to do. It looks right, looks healthy. Um, so for me, the perfect combination is the grass, healthy grass, and an attractive looking garden. We don't have like flowers and stuff. We've got some bushes in the backyard. We've got these like I don't even know what to call them, but they're positioned nicely and they grow really big and tall. I don't know. It ends up looking decent, but for me, it's about the mulch being positioned properly, looking healthy, looking good. I want it to be attractive. That's all. I don't know anything about flowers.
I
It's not
like
my.
me some good mulch too.
I
I like
love I
mulch.
love mulch. The smell of it, the new mulch, the smell, the shine. I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Vibrant.
a mulch fan.
I like black mulch too. I like black.
I'm more the red.
You're the red, eh?
Yeah, the red or like a dark brown, I guess. I like
I could
that.
I could go for a dark brown or black.
I have done the we do have it's funny because I do have to get some more.
Hmm.
Maddie and I dug out the whole one side of our house and kind of leveled it last year, and then put down the weed the weed covering, and then put about 5 inches of mulch on top.
Hmm.
And then Karen wanted some like walking stones, like kind of like a walking pathway through it. So we did that. Um, and we know this year, when we did it last year, we knew that we would have to do it again, like just kind of top it up this year, because over winter water, like it falls, right? It sort of compresses and stuff. So we know we have to top that up this year. So that's a project that's coming. But we wanted to be able to go out. So our backyard is a little bit strange. There's two gates on it
Hmm.
on either side of our house, and we had to replace the gate and fence on that side last year because it was all Well, that basically started it. We replaced the gate and then realized, well, if we're going to replace the gate and that stretch of fence, then we need to make that side more passable, like
Mhm,
that we could walk down it because I had just let it grow over. So yeah, we did that. We did that task. So that was cool. But yeah, now this year we know we have to go back in and kind of top it up and do a little bit of fixing.
mhm,
Yeah. But that's yeah, it's funny that that task though is a cool lawn task only because I get to work on it with one of my kids. Like
mhm.
that's the connective tissue for me that they want to come out and she was digging in and hauling wheelbarrows back and forth like she was enjoying it. So I felt like I was kind of conveying, I guess the best way to say it, like conveying knowledge. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like you're able to share some of that, some of your experience with your kid. And then there's a little bit of a farmer kind of mindset to it. Yeah. So this year they'll be helping with the tomatoes and the cucumbers too. So that's
Nice.
good. Yeah, that's good.
Along those lines, I want to talk
Mm-hmm.
about you and I were talking about our kids and volunteering in the community,
Mm-hmm.
um, particularly or with respect to high school graduation and requiring volunteer hours to be able to graduate. And yesterday, my son, he started a new volunteer job, and I was with him. And it was pretty cool to watch him and listen to him interact with complete strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as he was doing it, I was feeling a little bit like a human farmer, right? Like someone who is uh, giving my kid what he needs in order to grow into something good, and then maybe reproduce that one day, um, based on his experiences, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it was a really cool thing to see him navigating a space that he was unfamiliar with. And him and I debriefed last night. So last night, as I told you earlier on in the on ramp, we were watching hockey, and I was asking him about the day and how he felt about his work that day and the people he met. And it was funny because it was funny because he was breaking it down for me. He's like, yeah, the so him and I we got we got to the place together and we started working together, and then the person in charge noticed that my son was looking pretty bored. So she was like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna move one of you to another station." And I looked at him. I said, "Do you want to stay or do you want to go?" He's like, "I want to go. I don't want to do what you're doing. It's boring." So he moved, and so he left with the supervisor, and then was on his own. And he was telling me like he needed some materials to do the job that they want him to do. And he didn't know where to find it, so he was walking around. He was commenting on how people were like, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, how did you respond to that? Like, did you kind of step up and speak your mind?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, kinda." And I said to him, this is interesting for me. This is great learning for you. I said, in life, I said, what you experience today, being in a situation that you've never been in before, working with people you've never met before who are older than you, and just doing things that you don't do. I said, this is life. Like this is kind of a mini version of what life looks like when you go to new places or meet new people or start new things. You don't you sometimes don't know anything about what's going on. And so you have to make a decision. You have to decide whether you pussyfoot around these situations, these people, or you just speak your mind and you say what you need. And I said, dude, the key is to have a mix of both, right? Because you don't want to come in bursting through the door, but you also don't want to come in and go hide in a corner. For me, and I said, you're gonna have to find your own way. But for me, a nice balance is good. And then understanding when to step up one level over the other,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
true.
And he's kind of looking at me. I'm like, I know. I said to him, this is what I can tell you after like 45 years on this earth. And I still don't always get it right. But I said to him, like, he explained some situations. I said, okay, what did you say or what did you do? And I said, would you do it differently next time? He goes, yeah, I would. because he said at one point the guy he was working with told him, okay, we need to. It was in a like a cooking situation, and the guy says to my son, okay, you can go take like a 10-minute break because we're not going to be ready to proceed for another 10 minutes. So my son was like, okay. So my son left the kitchen area and went and sat down in the sitting area and was looking at his phone. And I was working in the area where he was taking his break. So I'm with a group of people and I'm doing my stuff. And then the supervisor, uh, she's like, "What's he doing over there?" And she wasn't like saying it in a mean way. She was having her lunch and she was joking. And she's like, "Why is he over there?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, why don't you ask him?" Like, even I was like, "Okay, so I'm his dad and I'm not currently working with him. So why don't you ask him what he's doing?" And then he came over to talk to me. I said to him, "What are you doing?" He goes, I'm on break. The guy told me to take a 10-minute break." I said, "Okay. So the guy you're working with knows where you are. He actually instructed you to do this?" And Ben's like, "Yeah." I said, "Awesome. Enjoy your break." It was one of those dad check-ins, like, are you jerking around here? Are you like, what are you supposed to be doing?" And he's like, "No, I'm
Hmm.
on break." I said, "Okay." And then when he was done his break, he went back to work. But I said to him when we were talking about this last night, I said, "You speak up for yourself. If somebody says, 'Hey, where are you? What are you doing?' You say, 'Jimmy, Jimmy told me to take 10 minutes because da 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 da.'" Like, you don't just kind of sit there and let someone think that you're slacking off. If you're slacking off, then you say, "Whoops, I'm slacking off. I'll get back to work." Like, you own it, own whatever it is, whether it's good or bad. I said, "This is a skill. This is something you need to learn to do because this is going to happen for the rest of your life." Um, and I said to him, "How did you feel you did? Did you feel like you did a good job?" Did he says, "Yeah." I said, "Good," because they could tell us not to come back. You know that, right? Even though we're volunteers, we could be we could be more work for them. Instead of helping them with the work, we could become the work. And I said, nobody wants that. So um, I said, I'm going to sign us up for another shift, and we'll go from there. I said, you just do the best you can with whatever job is given to you to do and speak for yourself. If you can't find an apron or gloves, you say to somebody, "Hey, I need gloves. Can you please tell me where to find them?" Because here's a good one for you. Here's a great example. And I'm gonna stop. My son came up to me and he's like, "I can't find the gloves." I'm like, "Okay, I'll show you where they are," because somebody showed me where they were. So we go to the glove area, and then the person that was teaching him what to do said, "Hey, what's going on?" And I said, I looked and I said, "Tell them what you're doing." He goes, "I'm looking for gloves." And they're like, "They're right there." And then I spoke up and said, "They're all too small. So you've got boxes here that say small, medium, and large, but they're all small. We've tried them all." And it was like, "Oh, oh." Then it was like not a, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" It's, "Oh, I need to give you what you need to do your job." So then the person was like, "Okay, come with me. Let's go open a new box of gloves." And I looked at my son. I'm like, "You see, you got to speak. Like, them watching you stare at the gloves, they're going to think there's something wrong with you. Like, you don't know what, there's just something off. Speak." So I spoke. I said, "You got 3 boxes of gloves. All the boxes say different sizes. But guess what? We've taken some from each box and they all fit the same. They're all too small. So somebody dropped the ball." I was like, I get into this mode of, I'm not dicking around. I'm trying to do my job, but somebody here didn't do their job. And I'm kind of protective of my kid. I'm like, don't take it out on my kid. Anyway, so then he got the right gloves, but I'm like, you need to speak. You need to speak, and and you need to, if you can navigate this experience, then you can navigate any new experience, because this is just mimicking a new experience you've never, like, and I show, when we got to the place, we walk in, nobody says a word to you because everybody's working. So I walked up, I said, "Watch this." We walked up to a group of people. I said, "Hey, my name is Roland, and I'm looking for so and so. This is our first shift." And like, "Oh, okay, let me help you." Like, you don't just stand there and wait. You walk up to somebody and you speak, and you go from there. And I told you there was going to be one more thing. I told you that was going to be the one more thing. But I got to give you this one too, because I took a little bit of my own. advice. I was working with this group. There's a family. They come every Saturday and they do the same work every Saturday. And I happen to be working with them. And there were a bunch of people missing yesterday. There was like a handful of people who didn't show up because of COVID. They have COVID or they're not feeling well or whatever. So one of the people in this family says to me, "What's your shift?" And I said, "I'm working from 11 to 3." She's like, "Oh, okay." And she's like, "There's no way we're going to be done by 3. Um, so don't feel like you have to stay and help when it gets to 3." And I looked at her and I said, "I don't feel that at all." Like a psycho, big smile on my face, doing my job. I'm like, "Trust me, I don't feel like I have to stay. I committed to 3. And if my son's not done at 3, then we won't go because I want him to finish whatever he committed to. I'm out of here when he's done." And it was awesome. It was like, "Thanks, I appreciate that, but we're leaving at 3." What ended up happening? It came to 3 and we had about 5 more minutes of work left and Ben was done. I said, "I just need 5 more minutes." And the lady laughed. She's like, "Oh, you're gonna stay?" I said, "I can do 5. If you tell me it's another hour, I'm out. I have a life
Hmm.
and a family outside of this."
Yep.
And she was messing around with me. She wasn't being mean or anything. It was just how I'm like, "Oh, trust me, I'm leaving when it's time for me to leave. I don't need anybody's. I don't need to say, 'Oh, no, I signed up for my shift and I
Hmm.
have stuff to do after my shift.' It's different if I don't, but I do today." So anyway,
It reminds me of when back in the day, I used to when I would take Maddie and Jake grocery shopping, and I would send them on recon. And I can remember initially, and this is like they're young, like I don't know, Maddie was maybe in grade 5, 4 or 5. That would have put Jake in grade 2, 2, 3. And I would tell them, we need milk. Go get it. And they'd go running. I can't tell you how many times, this is layered, right? But they had been passive voyagers to the grocery store for quite some time, sitting in the cart, seeing the different spaces. Um, and me telling them we had lots of conversations around like when we're in the car, do you have any sense of travel, or is it just you disappear and reappear in new places? And initially that's what it was. The car itself, it was a transporter. It wasn't like a textbook, or there wasn't a fluency to understand we're turning this corner and now this takes 15 minutes between these 2 points. None of that information was processing. It was like they disappeared at point A, our house, and reappeared point B at the grocery store. So I used to always challenge them on the drive there. Like I'd ask them, like, where do we turn? They're like, what do you mean? Like, how do we get to the grocery store? So I would do that in the car to get them to be mindful of the process, the path to the grocery store. And then we get to the grocery store and I'd say, I need milk. And the running joke, and they still remember this, is that I would send them to the deli counter. I may have told you this. I would send them to the deli counter, and the deli counter at our local metro, I would be getting the vegetables, which I could see over to the deli counter. It was, like I don't know, 40 yards away, maybe 20 yards away, just across the actual store. And I would tell one of them, I'm like, you go get milk. Generally, that was Maddie because it was on the other side of the store. And then Jake, I would say, you need to go to that counter right there, to the deli counter. I would point out the counter. Eventually, I could just say the deli counter, and he knew. You need to go to that counter, and I need 250 grams of shaved Black Forest ham. And I did that on purpose to create a rhyme, to create something that they could remember. And that was their job. And funny, he would go running over there and he would just stand there. Again, missing a fluency, right? Doesn't understand what it means to be in line, doesn't understand what it means to ask for help, doesn't understand. He just knew what he had to say when he arrived there. So I could hear him sometimes from across the grocery store just screaming it up into the air. Like he thought he just had to arrive there and say it. And then he would come back and he's like, no one's doing anything for me. Or he would come back partway and like, what was it that I needed to ask for again? Like 250 grams of shaved Black Forest ham. He's like, okay, 250 grams of Black Forest. He's like, he's walking away. He's muttering it to himself, right? Like this little 3-foot mini me going to grab the ham. But it was a great learning experience. And it was also a great, this is something that also happens. And, I'm sure was happening in your experience yesterday, is that you disrupt a space in a good way. You remind both the individuals in the space and the space that difference exists, and that new people can be a part of your life, and that you have to provide support. So the people that were there, you're saying it from the point of view of asking you're telling your son the importance of asking for help, and you being able to speak your mind. It's also important for the individuals there to experience that, somebody asking for help, someone speaking their mind. It's such a organic experience that it's easy to go into pro forma and just kind of like go through the motions. Well, this is what we do when we stand beside somebody, and you forget the humanness of it, right? So from across the veggie, I'm checking avocados and I'm seeing the humanness from the other side. Like, I could see where he's in line with two, and the line was never clear. Like, it wasn't, see, and here's the thing, difference about school. When you line up at school, it's very clear in how you line up. It's very clear in how you prioritize to go into your classroom. And these are the early learnings of school that eventually teach you how to exist in society. So, the idea of putting up your hand, the idea that, is the way that you line up at school front to back, or is it sideways? You have to be against a wall. Is it by height? Like, what are the categorical things of saying, I'm next? And I could see that playing out from across. Like, he tried, like, he went up to the counter and there was 5 people all facing the counter.
Mm,
So in that particular case, the lineup was actually from my point of view, the person that would have on my left was first in line, then second, third, fourth, fifth.
mhm.
He went up and he lined up directly behind the person that was first in line. So he's doing this front to back line, totally different fluency. The lineup was going this way, which would have put him almost down, like around the corner in the meat department. But he didn't have any clue about that. So this was awesome to see, because he would stand there in line and then the next person to the right would put in their order. And I'd see him do this, turn around and look at me, right? Like, what's up with this place? And then other times where he's there, he was the next one in line. The person behind the counter, though, didn't see him.
Oh,
So they would see that. So he figured out he's in the right place. He now has figured out it's a shoulder to shoulder line, and you move this way. So he's next in line. The person behind the counter, though, is looking at this person here. They don't see him because he's like this.
mhm.
It's like, can I have 300 grams of, he's a little teeny tiny and he's down behind the counter, but they can see the head of this person. So all of a sudden you just see him put his hands up in the air. He's like, hello, hello. Like, and then you see the person kind of go like this. Oh, hey, how's it going down there? And then, of course, I can hear him screaming, I need 250 grams of sliced ham. Black, black, black. And the person goes, Black Forest? Yeah, Black Forest ham. So I love this kind of, I love what you and your family, what you went through yesterday in this experience. And it connects so deeply with my belief as well, that I want my kids to be able to navigate the world when I'm not there,
Mhm.
right? I want them to have some tools when I'm not there, sort of whispering on their shoulder of what, two things. I don't want to have to tell them what to do in that moment. And I don't want them to have to ask, am I doing the right thing? I want them to have that in their operating system. And the thing with Jake is that he would do the ham and then he'd come run up. He's like, okay, now can I go look at the lobsters? And I'm like, yeah, buddy, go look at the lobsters. And Karen and I went through a real process there, because kids would come home and they would like, we went and got oranges today. We went and got the yogurt. And they were talking about all this stuff. And of course, Karen turns to me and is like, you didn't keep them with you? I'm
Ah,
like, no. I'm like, I want them to have I said, this is good. I said, they can't get out the door, right? They know the rules about if they get lost, because we had the family rules, talk to someone in a uniform. That's,
mhm.
they're sort of, talk to someone that has other family members with them, right? Talk to someone that's at a count behind a counter. I said those were the rules if you get lost. That's, you kind of use those three. I said worst case scenario, sit down and start crying. Like, you can go there, right? But those are sort of the rules, like, to get help. And it was one of the most amazing moments. The last thing I'll close on this was Maddie. So I sent Maddie to get the milk. So milk, if we're at the deli section, that would be like at 6 o'clock on the dial, and the milk was like kind of like at 11 o'clock, like it was on the opposite side and starting to go towards a corner. So I no longer could see her when she went to get milk.
Mhm.
We're a bag milk family, so I knew that, but I also knew the bag milk that we got was at the right height for her. She could do it. But she got over there and they had moved the shelves around. So she knew the product she had to get, but she couldn't reach it. Now I had come around the corner before and I'd seen her like standing up in the cooler, grabbing it out. I let it roll. She's doing what she's got to do, right? She's careful. She gets it down. She comes back. So I didn't know that was playing out when she was away from me. But she came back with the milk. I'm like, cool, got the milk. And I sent them on expedition again. Go get yogurt, go get bread, whatever. And later on, she says, that's the woman that I asked for help. I'm like, when did that happen? She said, well, when I went to get milk, the milk was too high for me and I couldn't climb up to grab it. So I just turned to the woman beside me and said, I have to get milk. Could you get a bag down for me? And the person did. Person got the milk down. I know I said this is the last thing. I'm going to say one more thing. The teacher in me, then sometimes I would send them and say, okay, we need orange juice today. It's got to be pulp free.
Mhm.
Like we're just craving it, but I want you to find the best deal.
Mm.
And they would come back and they would say, this is 1 liter or 1L. They could figure that this was 1L and it was $3. There was another one that was 2Ls, but it was $8. She said, I think this is actually a better deal because it's on sale. I said, it is. Good job. So I rolled in some of that next level stuff of once you get the social kind of stuff down, and I guess you could do it in any order. For us, it was the social, it was the connection, it was the mapping of the store, the autonomy, the fact that they had that feel like they got to kind of leave in a safe way, like they were successfully navigating the world. That thrill of not having to sort of be right next to mom or dad, like they were able to kind of make decisions, and kids love to make decisions. They really do. From my experience, how and what we let them make decisions about sometimes is tricky to figure out. But I would then say, okay, we only want to spend $5 and we want to get as much of that as possible. That one was usually the chip factor. So we have $6 for chips. All we care about is getting a lot of chips.
Make it happen. Yeah.
Make it happen. That's exactly what I would say. I'm like, make it happen. And they're like, I'm like, go. And they're like, and they just run off and they come back with chips. So
After my son and I did this yesterday,
mhm.
we went to get dinner and we went into like it's a really cool place. Well, you know where Penny's Hot Chicken is. You know how they have that lineup of all those storefronts in that little space. So we go in there and there's a gong show in front of Penny's. There's like 100 people and we don't know. My son's like, how are you going to know who's paid and who's not? I said, it's going to be really easy. I walked right up to where you order. There were 3 people standing there. I said, have you guys ordered? And 2 of them were like, yeah, I have. And then they backed out of that space. And then the one was like, I haven't ordered yet. I'm like, right on. So I stepped behind him, look at my son, and I'm like, that's all you do, bro. Like, you just say, who's waiting in line? And then they're like, we are. And then you go behind the last person in the line. But he's like, Dad, there's like a million people here. I'm like, you just friggin' start asking.
Yeah, that's
Or
it.
you know what? If you step in the wrong place, someone's gonna let you know. Someone's gonna be like, "Whoa,
Just be open enough to that feedback, right?
fair enough."
Yeah,
Like you have to
that's
be, yeah,
well, and but that's like the dad response, right?
yeah, yeah.
Recognize it's okay to make that mistake. Don't double down on it
No,
by being righteous. Just like
right.
say, my
Just
bad.
I
Yeah,
usually give them. I'm like, "Thank you for letting me know."
yeah.
Or sometime like you ask, "Where's the line?" or "Have you ordered?" or "Who's in line here?" Like that's all it takes. It's all it takes.
It's quite remarkable how few people will do that, though. They
I
kind of
know
flow.
that's
They kind of,
interesting. Eh?
and that was what I was actually observing. That's one of the things I was observing. I would say, to Jake before he figured out the horizontal lineups. I'm like, if you're not sure, sometimes figuring out that you're not sure is also a thing. That's a process. But I said I could see you from across the way trying to figure out all on your own what to do. Just turn and ask. And so he always does. He's actually more open to doing that than his older sibling. He'll ask, he'll talk, he'll connect, doesn't give a damn. He'll now just ask. But that really is, I see that in adults. I see adults that just kind of stand there and wait to be noticed. And if it's a busy space, sometimes people don't have time to notice, right? They're looking to sort of get through the queue. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? And just kind of get that done. That's a thing, right?
It's a thing.
So,
Can we see your artwork for today?
yeah, for sure. It was something. Can I put a question to you before I show you?
You can, yeah.
I'll do it at the same time. Just let me finish one last line here as I'm talking. So one of the things that I thought I was gonna drop today, but maybe I'll just drop it as a it's not homework, dude, but it's kind of like I'm curious. I'm curious about what you've noticed in yourself. Have you okay over the last 2 years? And I'll just we know what we're talking about when we're talking about that. The last 2 years, at any point, did it occur to you to quit being an educator?
Yes.
You have
Yes.
had that, eh?
I have had that, yeah.
Okay. So
And
that's
we'll
what
definitely have to pick up on that next week. Oh, the punch clock. Nice.
yeah, so that's and I just that was something that maybe this week we can play with that a little bit. I'm in a couple discussions with colleagues right now about like how close do you get to that thought before it's actually a real thought, right? So it's a real thought, but how does it move from noun, wrapping all the way back to the beginning of our combo, how does it move from noun to verb?
Yeah, I
Right?
hear
I
you.
I quit. I quit. What is the thing that would um allow someone to move to that space? Because I think for some people, it's like their wellness is dependent on it, no matter the cost. And then there's others that are approaching it and they feel the gravity and they can't pull themselves out of it. So that's the my starting point is that I have not had that thought. I have not. I'm not sure. I have some suspicions why. Um, but I have not, that has not occurred to me that anything has happened that would particularly light up that thought for me.
I wish we could talk about this more
Mhm.
because I would really love to. I do have to go,
Cliffhanger.
but I tell you, I've not felt that way this last year in my new
Mhm.
role. So I guess we'll have to work through this, but this year in my new role, I've not felt that at all.
I'm sure we'll pick it up at some point, dude.
Sure we will.
All
That
right, man.
was season 5, episode 28.
Yeah, Dakota podcast.
Have a great Palm Sunday.
Oh, oh yes, I will. I thank you. You also.
Oh geez, why does Irma really? We're punching out Irma. Irma says navigating the social nuances of our world is complex, and the structures in school need to be aware. One, I'm in. I love it. She'll have to join us next week when we continue to talk about this.
Stay tuned for next week when Roland says you're supposed to say something.
Welcome to season 5, episode 29 of the Decoded podcast. Right
Happy to
on.
be here. Ciao.
Okay. Happy Palm Sunday. Peace.